Have you ever been in a relationship that felt, I don't know, both magical and just deeply painful at the same time? One that left you totally confused, completely exhausted, and really questioning your own sanity? If you've ever felt like love was supposed to be the answer, but instead it just became the source of all your problems, then you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to dive into why that happens and what a healthy connection actually looks like.
Wow. You know, this quote from a Reddit user is just so raw, and it captures a feeling that so many people go through but almost never say out loud. When a connection, when something you call love, brings you to your absolute lowest point, it just forces you to question everything. And that is a really painful and lonely place to be.
And that is the big question we're tackling today. We are going to unpack the difference between real, genuine love and those painful attachments that can look and feel so much like it. The goal here is to move from confusion to clarity.
So where do these painful patterns even come from? Well, to really get it, we have to look at the psychological foundation, the blueprint, really, that shapes how we connect with other people in the first place.
Think of it like this. Your experiences growing up, especially with your parents or caregivers, they created a kind of filter in your brain. And this filter, it unconsciously influences who you're drawn to as an adult. So if your early life taught you that love was, say, inconsistent or chaotic or something you had to fight for, your brain might now be drawn to partners who feel familiar, right? Even if that familiar feeling is actually rooted in something really unhealthy.
Okay, let's get a really clear definition on the table, because this is important. A trauma bond is an emotional attachment to an abuser, and it's forged through a cycle of abuse. Now, it's so crucial to get this next part. It is not a bond over a shared trauma. That's a really common mix-up. This is a bond created by the trauma of the abusive cycle itself.
So how does this even happen? Well, psychology tells us there are two key ingredients. First, you need a power imbalance where one person really holds all the cards. But second, and this is the absolute kicker, is something called intermittent reinforcement. It's when the abuser switches between being awful and being wonderful. It's that unpredictability that creates this powerful, addictive response in your brain. Those good moments release dopamine, making you crave the next hit of affection and keeping you totally hooked in the cycle. It's like a slot machine.
So this trauma bond blueprint, it can lead to a few specific, really unhealthy relationship dynamics. Let's take a look at some of the most common patterns out there that get mistaken for intense, passionate love all the time. First up is codependency. Now, this isn't just about being a caring person. This is when your own needs, your dreams, your entire sense of self just gets completely lost because you're so focused on someone else. Your whole self-worth gets tangled up in being needed by them.
This table really breaks down that toxic dance of codependency. On one side, you have the enabler, or the caretaker, who gets their feeling of worth from rescuing. And on the other, you have the dependent, whose behavior just reinforces the enabler's role. It's this powerful, self-feeding loop where real growth is basically impossible because the dynamic needs both people to stay exactly where they are, stuck.
Okay, next, let's talk about limerence. This one feels like the most intense, all-consuming, epic love story you can possibly imagine. But it's actually an obsessive state. It's all about these intrusive, constant thoughts about the other person, and this desperate, desperate longing for them to feel the same way.
Does any of this sound familiar? You know, your entire mood for the day just depends on whether they text you back. You put them on this massive pedestal, totally ignoring any red flags. It can even show up physically, heart palpitations, feeling sick to your stomach. That feeling of being completely out of control, that's a huge sign of limerence, not healthy love.
And finally, let's touch on conditional love. This often comes from childhoods where we were taught we were only good or lovable when we performed or achieved or made our parents look good. In other words, love was something you had to earn.
In a relationship, this looks like a partner who gives you the silent treatment when you let them down. There's this constant scorekeeping. You feel like you're always being graded, and their affection is the prize you get if you do everything perfectly. It is absolutely exhausting because the connection isn't about who you are, it's about what you do for them.
So, okay, after digging into all these unhealthy patterns, where do we go? What's the end game? Well, it's not total independence where you just don't need anyone. The real goal is this beautiful balance called interdependence.
Interdependence is where two whole, complete individuals choose to build something together. Unlike codependency, where you kind of lose yourself, here you rely on each other while still being your own person. The bond actually makes both people stronger. It creates a we that's so much greater than the sum of its parts.
This comparison just lays it all out so clearly, doesn't it? In a codependent relationship, boundaries are a mess, they're all blurry, and it leads to stagnation. But in an independent one, clear boundaries are seen as essential. They protect each person's autonomy, and that is what allows both people to grow. And the benefits are just huge. You get strength and unity, you get the flexibility to handle whatever life throws at you, and you build this deep emotional resilience. But most importantly, it's a relationship that encourages you to become more of yourself, not less.
So, the big question, right? How do you actually get there? How do you move from these painful patterns toward that healthy interdependence we were just talking about? Well, it's a journey, for sure, and it starts with a few key steps. It all starts with just radical honesty, looking at the patterns without shame, without judgment. From there, seeking professional help can be an absolute game changer. A good therapist can give you the tools for the next steps, setting boundaries to protect your own energy, prioritizing self-care to rebuild your sense of self, and learning how to communicate in a way that's open and honest, not manipulative.
And as you start this journey, you have to remember this. Healing is not a straight line. It's messy. There are going to be good days, and there are going to be really hard days. It takes so much patience with yourself, and if you're working on it with a partner, a deep, mutual commitment to change. Above everything else, please hold on to this truth. No matter what your past has taught you, you are inherently worthy of a love that feels like a safe harbor, not a storm. A love that is consistent, that is secure, and that is nurturing. You deserve that. So I'll leave you with this final thought. After everything we've talked about, just take a second to imagine it. Forget what you've been told love is supposed to be, and instead ask yourself, what does a truly healthy, supportive, and freeing connection look like? And more importantly, what does it feel like for you?